Another podcast here from the Michigan Institute of Athletics in Brighton, Michigan with James Gray. I'm incredibly excited today. I'm getting to interview someone that I look up to in the community who's super successful as a leader, as a human being, as someone that sets an example for the way that I believe that we have the potential to live in this life, really giving our best, putting our effort out every single day, being an example of the words that we speak. And without further ado, I'm here joined today by Chris Kleba, local entrepreneur, businessman, jiu-jitsu practitioner. Really, there's a lot of words that would describe you.
Yeah.
For the people that don't know you, give us a little bit about your background and how would you classify yourself?
Sure. Biggest thing now is just I have an obsession with leadership development, and I do that through business entrepreneurship, and that's kind of been my obsession lately for the last 5-10 years, and it's been an interesting road for sure. But started as a child actor, very interesting route from there to the entrepreneur world, and a lot of twists and turns. But yeah, running a private equity firm now and obsessed with leadership development is how I'd put it.
So what was your initial mark in the business world? What was your first start? You started as a childhood actor. That's an awesome background. That's something that very few people would even have as a part of their resume.
Right.
But what was your first real step into the business world?
Yeah. So my dad has been a constant inspiration in my life. One of the best leaders I know. Lucky to have him as a mentor. And he's had an intensity and just a burden of leadership that he has carried his whole life, looking out for his people. And I found that so attractive to me from a young age, is he was never in the gym business or the whatever business. He's always just been in the business and the people business, the leadership development business. And that's, people ask us all the time, how do you go from restaurants to QSR to fast food to this or that, or gyms, fitness, anything? It's the same industry. It's people development through different outlets. And he was the person who really showed me that and opened my eyes to what it means to lead a team, change lives. So my first kind of intro to business was just being under him, shadowing some of his great leaders, and he was so smart. He just put me in touch with so many of his mentors and people that were a little ahead of me to learn and grow under them and get exposure to the whole business world from the bottom up. So I was lucky enough to come in as an operations role and get to learn every business I was a part of from the ground up.
That makes so much more sense because when I think of you, you're so multifaceted. I'm like, man, he's running a restaurant, but he's on the executive board for this company. Right. He's the CEO of this company. He's,
exactly.
But really, if you were to simplify this, it's almost all branches of one tree.
That's right.
You're in the business of people, and you're in the business of looking at models and figuring out how to make them successful.
Exactly.
That's right. That's awesome. It's a good way to think about it. Describe what a normal day or a normal week looks like for somebody like you, because I feel like it's always changing at that point. You don't show up at one spot, clock in. You have a basic set of tasks that you have to accomplish.
Right.
What does a normal day or week look like for you?
Yeah, so my biggest thing I pride myself on is just living intentionally, and I think intentionality is just what separates people 100%. Accountability, intentionality, getting good, healthy relationships with those factors has been everything. So everything is pretty planned out, but I still allow myself to kind of be in a flow state and be loose when I need to. But I've been so intentional and disciplined about getting my daily structure down. And so for someone as driven and as goal-oriented as I am, it's a really weird thing when people ask me where I want to be in 5 years or what I want to be doing in 10 years. I often don't have an answer for them because I love my day so much that if I just live every day like this, I won't even know. I don't want to recognize myself in a year. And that's kind of been my mindset. I have no clue where I'm going to be in 5 years, where I'm going to be in 10, but I know if I live every day or week with these set of intentional values, I'm going to be progressing my people, my businesses, myself forward every day. So I try to, every day I write down I have these top 5 things I write in my planner: lead, learn, sweat, connect, grow. And those are just I heard this thing called the daily top 5. So those are kind of my guiding compass for the day. But besides that, I really just bounce around and work with my teams, work with them through people. So those are the constants in my life. Is I have a very routine, intentional structure for checking on these businesses, staying very, very close to your people. And that's the key, is the only way to really distance yourself or remove and delegate from your businesses is to stay so close to your people, have those great relationships with intentionality and accountability. So I just kind of have a good sense of, a good mix rather of structured meetings, rhythms for everything, for the business and the people, one-on-ones, team meetings, everything, a good mix of that, and then kind of an instinct I've developed of where I need to be, where I need to put my time, when it's time to be with certain people, and my leaders tell me that too. So I really just, basically a big chunk of the day is teams, accountability, leadership development, staying in touch, meeting rhythms, things along those lines, besides just my personal growth daily and weekly. So
you just exude energy. You can tell that you love life. You love what you do.
I do.
Hearing you speak, you are passionately committed to the life that you're pursuing. And that's something that I think that if more people really engaged fully in their life's work, found out, like, what am I passionate about? What qualities do I bring to the table that really set me apart from other people?
Right.
Or should I invest in to really make sure that I'm able to, consistently climb and be, a better version of myself throughout this life? Where does that come from? Was that something you were born with? Is that an innate talent that you've always had when you were a young kid? Were you just a go-getter, or are these acquired, learned traits, like you said, from witnessing people that you looked up to, like in your family structure, going, you know what, I see the way that my father is, I admire that, I'm going to work to be that? Or where does that come from?
Yeah, it's a damn good question. It's probably mixed somewhere in the middle, but I've done a million personality tests. I know I have a lot of intensities. I have a lot of extremes on the spectrum that not a lot of people have. And same with my father. And I think, it took me 30 years to get a good relationship with the intensity I have and embrace it. And I mean, everything it's almost passion to a default, to the point where, like we've talked about a lot of times, passion's become such a buzzword that people can be paralyzed by it because they don't want to do something they're not 100% behind, and they want to believe in the values and the mission, and all that stuff's important. But I always tell people I would trade passion for movement any day in my life. So I have just got a great relationship with movement, decisions, intensity, and really breaking that a part of my day and my life. And I think that's why I've been so attracted to your energy, is because this is the exceptional people are the exception. It's not the norm. It's hard to find this. And I've had my dad in my ear my whole life saying, so many people have died to give you the right to choose what you want to do, and you better damn well be happy doing it or make a change. And it starts with personal accountability for where you want to be and where you want to go. And I've always loved the mindset that you have to give yourself 100% responsibility for where you are, because only then you give yourself 100% control to take yourself where you need to be. So people who always leave that window open, and it could be things like, a family member got sick, I got into a car accident, corona. I mean, these are things that really, truly may be out of your control, but as long as that 5%, 10%'s in there, you're always going to have that out on the accountability side. And I remove that. I give myself 100% responsibility, control, and accountability. And I think it came from just developing a relationship with that my whole life. And like I said, always been very passionate, but something I liked about my dad is he's always said, we have a very similar personality. The only way we're going to be happy is to find something the closest is to what you put in is what you get out, which is why I moved away from the entertainment industry and why I love business entrepreneurship, because it does give you that feeling of control. And that's something I've been addicted to for the last 10, 15 years, no doubt.
So this is an interesting way that I think people listening would really enjoy to look at this is, you almost take what some people may consider bad things, like you have obsessions in your personality, you have extremes, you have things that some people might look at, and it might look at it as like a character flaw. Like I dive too head over heels into things, whereas you're using it as a strength.
Right.
You're basically saying, you know what, I am this type of person. I have this unstoppable drive, so I'm going to take those qualities and make sure that it's pushing in a direction that I'm happy about. Because I would imagine a lot of people with that type of personality could be the ones that fall into drugs or other things. That you just have an obsessive personality.
That's right. And the worst thing that could happen is an executive team with thumb-down intensities that all try to moderate themselves to be a cohesive unit. Well, I want to surround myself with people with unique intensities that are specialists, and they use it as a sword, more of a shield than a sword, but they always have that to rely on. And something with me is I've always had this intensity, and in the back of my mind, I know that with just me, I can get anything done, just like you have. It's like I have that get shit done quality where I know that shit hits the fan, I can do every part of this business, and I will make it successful. This will not fail. But I never have to bring that out, but I know it's there. So it's allowed me to really become an expert at delegation, people, working with and through people, which is the only way to scale and grow. So I've known that I have that in my back pocket, but I've really had to evolve those people skills and that people side, because that's really the only way to grow.
So it's really the belief in yourself. You know that regardless of what obstacles occur, you are going to overcome them.
Right.
Whether you get knocked down, you're going to get past the hurdles that evolved. Whereas I would say most people in society, if you looked at most people, they actually resist change. Yep. They're afraid of new challenges. They don't want something that's outside of the normal flow of things, right?
That's right.
you're the opposite. You embrace
Yeah.
the challenges that come because you're going to learn and grow from those experiences.
That's right. We do something in our executive meetings we call mining for conflict. We want conflict. We make that a part of our life and growth, and that's how we show each other we care. Is your time's valuable, my time's valuable. We owe it to ourselves to be the best we can be. And a core value in all of our businesses, because core values are so kind of overdone with, the basics, trust, teamwork, all that stuff. Our number one is championship mentality. We tell you when you come on board, we have an uncommon will to win that we do not compromise on. We celebrate victories, but we expect a certain level of intensity and a comfortable dissatisfaction. We try to stir up a nice dissatisfaction, and we mine for conflict in these meetings. And the same three factors affect every business: trust, accountability, and conflict. They're very hard, very uncomfortable, very subjective. So my job is to kind of bring that to the table and find people who are comfortable living in that space, who just want to be right, and they want to win more than, rather they want to win more than they want to be right, is kind of what we need. So we've redefined what it really means to be a team, because a lot of companies are playing golf. They have everyone kind of working on their own stuff and reporting back. We like to play basketball, get everyone involved. Everything we do is across lines. So we problem solve at our meetings. We bring up conflict. We stir shit up, and we want to be the best. We want things like Corona expose weaknesses. If you're intentional about things, this is a great chance to patch up your business, identify issues, get tighter on numbers, know everything better. So everything like this, we don't wait for Corona or something to look at ourselves like this. We do these activities all the time where we look critically at our businesses and our people.
It's almost that same killer mindset you find in fighters. They're
Right.
just willing to take on whatever obstacles
Yeah.
in front of them in that pursuit of greatness.
Yeah.
They're competitive in almost every aspect of your life. Like if you look at the most successful
right.
competitors, they're just competitive human beings. If they've never played a game of darts and you challenge them in a game of darts, they're going to give you 1,000%
right.
because it's a part of their spirit.
That's right.
How do you, when you're interviewing someone to bring them into the company, how do you get to those qualities in people? Like, how do you determine when you sit down across the desk from someone? Because anyone can say anything.
Right.
But how do you find those people? Because your team, the couple of people I've spoken to, your CFO, Joe, and a couple other people, you can just tell they have that energy, that spirit, that grind. How do you find that in society?
Yeah,
What is the process to pull those people out? Because that's
it's
absolutely
tough.
the exception.
It's tough. That's just it. It's exceptional people are the exception. We're very aware of that. So it starts with, it sounds simple, but so few people do this. But you can't know what you're looking for until you identify it. I'll know it when I see it is not effective. I know exactly what I'm looking for, and when I see it, boom. Like with Joe, the CFO, I knew exactly the type of person I wanted. I knew the qualities, I knew the values, I knew the intensity, the humbleness, the teachability. I knew all that stuff. When he came about, it was ready to go. We weren't just interviewing and waiting for someone to blow us away. We knew exactly what we were looking for. So it all goes back to intentionality, identifying what we need, and knowing yourself well enough to know who you need to surround yourself with to be successful. So everything is, we spend so much time on core values, assembling all this stuff to make every process intentional. And we don't like to rely on talent or specific people. We want all this stuff to be foolproof, idiot-proof, so we can make sure we have the best chance of succeeding, because it really is all about bringing the right people in the right seats, and that's the way to do this. So.
And you can really tell you love what you do. I just alluded that to a minute ago. You love what you do.
Yeah.
And that type of love for what you do, I feel like that's probably what sparks you awake in the morning. It's not, a lot of people get up with the mentality that like, oh, another day. Oh my God, where's the weekend? You're the exact opposite human being. You are blessed with another day. You have another opportunity to take on the challenges in front of you. You are anxiously looking forward to like, if we're at this level and we were here, that's great. How do we get to this level?
That's right.
It's
exhausting for people because it's hard. We talk this about all the time, how hard it is to live with a warrior, date a warrior, marry one. I mean, God, I've had to witness it with my dad and see all the people. When is it going to be enough? Why are you doing another thing? Why are you rolling your chips over to something else? And what drives us. We love the excitement. We love learning new things, and we love just pushing it. And it's something internal that if my dad died tomorrow, I would know that. Some people would say, damn, he never got to enjoy his cabins or go and fish as much as he wanted to or buy a nice car or go on a trip to Hawaii, but he loved every day of these meetings. It gives him energy. It gives him intensity, excitement about his life. He loves this too.
So if you witnessed him living his life, every day to him is doing something that he wants to do. He doesn't need the vacation. His life is the dream that he wanted to create.
Because it goes back to he loves his day so much. He gets up, works out, does what he wants to do, loves these meetings. He loves every second of it, changing lives, learning, working, interacting with people and teams and growing himself. And it's just something that's so inspiring because that's what drives him. It's irrelevant how many stores or any benchmarks that he hits. It's not about that. It's about what gives him fuel for his day and how he wants to live intentionally.
And you feel the same way.
100%. Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, man. I think if more people could find a passion towards anything,
Right.
whether it was business or
Right.
it was relationship or it was anything in life that sparks you with that type of passion, that's fuel indefinitely.
That's right.
Every time you're going to hit an obstacle, your tank
Yep.
is full to take that obstacle on.
Mm-hmm.
You're not living in a way that you're drained at the end of every day, and you don't even have the mental capacity to think about the problems that you should be
Yeah.
working on. You know what I mean? It's the exact opposite formula for life.
That's right. And it's not and that's what I want to reiterate, which it's not as simple as identifying a passion and going. It's a lot of movement. It's a lot of unknown. It's taken, my dad always said from the time I was pretty young, it's just about lily pads. You just jump and find a new one. And I tell people, if you're committed to something and you're intentional about it, there is no negative that can come from pursuing something that has a hint of passion. Even if there's an opportunity, something that you have an interest in, just pursue it. Do a business plan, push it as far as you can go, meet some new people, build your network. There is no negative that can come from that. If you go back and analyze that journey for yourself, you might have realized, during this process, I learned that I loved interacting with the marketing person. I found this passion. It's lily pads, and you just got to get moving is what I like to tell people, to find that passion, because there was nothing I did that was a 100% hell yeah at any time in my life. I had to work my ass off to try to get to the point where I even liked half, 60, 70% of what I was doing, but it was because I took risks. I did jobs I didn't want to do necessarily, to learn, to grow, to realize things about myself. And that's what's so funny about Corona is so many people are taking a break from their lifestyle to realize and identify things. That's what I tell people. I do those things. My dad calls it a walk in the woods all the time, where I'm looking big picture at my life, removing myself from my day-to-day, the monotony, to try to really identify, am I going the right direction? We always say that people are busy climbing ladders, but who's making sure the ladder's on the right thing? And it's something that is just so impactful to me, because I don't want to rely on a natural disaster to make me look critically at my life and how I'm living my day-to-day life with a finite amount of days. You want to insert and be intentional about reviewing and learning and analyzing and growing, and it's there, but it's not a sexy process. It's very grimy and gritty, and you just got to get moving and learn.
What would you say is what motivates you to have that energy every day, though? Because I feel like a lot of the people that haven't started yet, right? If they felt the way that you and I feel every day, like I'm stoked when I wake up in the morning, like I'm ready to get to work. It's never a feeling of, I have to go to work.
Sure.
But the people that haven't got started yet, they don't have that fuel yet, right? They don't have that because they haven't felt this like, oh my God, I love today. I want that again. I desire that again. I'm going to challenge that again. What is it that fuels you like that? Is it just because you're already in the process? And if that's the answer, then initially, when you were really like learning the process and going, what gave you, were you listening to motivational speakers? Were you reading books? Did you just have it in here that you were able to, you woke up with a full tank willing to take on challenges? Because I meet countless people that I feel like they have the potential. I know they do. I see the potential in them, but it's hard to almost get them to see that potential in themselves, to want to go for their dreams. And they'll tell you about it. They'll tell you, like, I want to do this, I want to do that. But it's that initial fuel tank that they need. Where does it come from you, or how did you get it started?
So personal growth has been a constant in my life. I am always learning, growing, very intentional about inserting a part of my day to learn and grow personally from whatever source, podcasts, mentors, people, anything I can do. And I've always had this innate belief that you're one or two people away from people that can change your lives, or one piece of information that can just change your life. And it's podcasts. You might get one or two sentences, but you start to connect these dots and really figure out your style and who you are and what you're attracted to. And so that's a big part of it. But the other part is developing my relationship with accountability, because I think the hardest part for people is looking in the mirror and putting it on you, like I said, because it's easier to blame, my boss is a dick. This company doesn't know what they're doing. When this happens, I'll do it. If X, then Y. And so many people rely on that instead of looking in the mirror and getting a healthier relationship with accountability. Because truth is, it's a lot of risk. It's a lot of unknown. Failure, this or that. A lot of people are a lot comfortable in a $45,000 a year job where they can blame someone else than taking a risk and being fully accountable. And that's just the truth. That's why people love to throw words like luck around or this or that, because they're passing the accountability buck on something or someone or some circumstance. And that's why I said it's been a 30-year journey for me just to get this healthier relationship with intentionality and accountability. And it's still not even where I want it to be. But that was the biggest thing, is looking in the mirror and really accepting that 100% of where I am is on me, and it's hard, and there's loopholes and this and that, but like I said, I made a conscious decision to close those doors and put it all on me.
I actually spoke about that in a podcast the other day with a police officer. We were talking about this victim mentality in society where everyone else is to blame for the shortcomings that you have in your life. You didn't get the head start that you deserved, or you are at this status level, or you have this skin color, and that's the reason you're not successful.
Right.
And I believe that victim mentality is so disempowering to people. While you think you pointing the finger to blame the people around you, in some ways, it might be like catering to your frustrations. Like, the reason I'm not who I want to be is because of this. You're actually just removing your own power.
Right.
You are stripping yourself of the ability to become successful, because really the answer is in your bathroom mirror. If you stared in the mirror, that person changes your life. We've all heard stories, motivational speakers, people that have been ultra successful in business, that have come from nothing. Way less than you or I or most people in society, and have become ultra successful, right? Yep. And these are the stories that we admire. These are the people that we look up to and we think, man, like, that's a hero. There's so many stories of people that failed their way to success that should just make you go, wait a second. If this person with way less than me was able to accomplish these goals that are more wild than my craziest dreams, why can't I be that guy? But there's this weird victim mentality that's going around, and it's been pushed in 2020 horrifically.
Oh, yeah.
Where people are becoming so disconnected, so divided, so disempowered. We need to get back to the basics.
Yep.
You need to go back to looking at who you are as a human being, looking at the way that you attack life, being accountable, the word that you've used over and over and over, and take responsibility of the fact that, if I would like to be something in this life, it's on me.
Right.
Doesn't matter what your childhood looked like. Doesn't matter what your current circumstance look like. If you want to change, it's possible.
That's right.
Might not be easy.
Yeah.
Might take a lot of work. Might have a lot of tears, but it's possible.
That's right.
That's something that's really fueled me throughout my life, is the word possible.
Right.
So many times in my life when I was looking at crazy goals, you got to think when I'm a teenage kid that said one day I'm going to own this mega facility, UFC fighters are going to come to Brighton, Michigan, I'm going to travel around the world. They were just words.
Yeah.
And a lot of people might have heard them and said, good luck, James.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I said, why is it not possible?
Yeah.
Might be difficult. I might get knocked down a bunch of times, but it's possible. And if it's possible, I'm going to work for it. Because if I get one shot at this thing, I want to look back and be proud of the fact that I was the guy that went for it.
Yeah.
And as human beings, I think we have this weird innate desire to leave this legacy behind us.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that matters to me.
Yeah.
It matters to me, even though long after I'm gone, I guess I'm just dust in the wind like everybody else. But there's a sentiment there where I believe that if I change the lives of countless people around me, my life had purpose. It had meaning. You know what I mean? And right now, Corona's like a good reset button.
Yeah.
At first, I was really frustrated because I had basically an authority figure stick their thumb on top of my head and tell me what I could or couldn't do. But it's actually been a great reset. It's allowed me to acquire new skills. It has allowed me to take a step back and reflect on everything that's going on. And it's allowed me to see the world for what it can be in its greatest forms and what it can be when we start going off the wrong track. You know what I mean? So beyond what you've spoken about a little bit about COVID, the year 2020, even though it's been filled with disaster and everything, you would say personally you've actually grown this year.
Yeah. No,
you've experienced growth. Your business is doing well right now.
Yeah. There's everything. Something I like to keep in mind is when you're a leader, when you have a company, there's no neutral interactions. Everything's stronger, weaker, positive or negative, and every employee is kind of looking at you through that bucket of every interaction. That lens is just where is this going? And a lot of teams have emerged much weaker, and this has been a time to get much closer, dig in, show people that you have their back. There's so much good that can come from this if you're intentional. And in many ways, Corona is just like a failure, like you mentioned. So many failures. If I listed my failures and my mess ups with employees, things that I've done wrong, things my dad has done wrong, how many failures we've had, it would blow your mind. But if you're intentional and analyze it and can learn and grow, it's huge. So this has really given us an opportunity to all just kind of get closer with each other, identify the holes, slow down a little bit. We were going very, very fast as we always do. So it kind of forced us to slow down and take a look at each other, take a look at where we're going. And we're about to head to Traverse City this weekend for a big retreat and just recenter, refocus, figure out what the next 10, 12 months look like. And so everything's an opportunity if you got the right team and the right people, the right mindset.
It's like that beautiful Michael Jordan commercial where he said, I failed over and over throughout my life, and that is why I succeed.
Exactly.
If you were going to speak to a business owner or someone else that's really trying to be, similar to you in many ways, how do you find it best to motivate others? Because to motivate ourselves, like, people can dig in, they can put their feet in the ground, they can read and research and learn and listen. The information's there.
Right.
But how do you, as a leader, get the people in your company as engaged and emotionally involved in it? Because really, if they're just treating it as a job, it's just a job to them. They're going to do just enough to get it done, to get their paycheck. But we're looking for people way above and beyond that. We want the people that care about the process and the system as if it was their own child. You know what I mean? I almost look at my business like, in a weird way, like it's my baby, right? What are the tools that you've found to get other people to have that same type of spirit and fire that you have? Because that, to a company, is one of the most valuable things that you could produce.
That's my favorite topic. And this is, like I said, when you asked me to describe myself, I said just obsession with leadership development. This is what I have identified, and everyone who's successful has identified, is the secret sauce. No businesses go out of business because they made a bad decision with marketing, or the CFO messed up a spreadsheet, or an intelligence issue. It never is. It's an organizational health issue every single time. And it's because you have to live in these subjective, uncomfortable areas like accountability, feelings, personal involvement, subjectiveness. People are very uncomfortable. They'd rather live in a spreadsheet world where you report on black and white issues, and that's that. And we can't discuss this. There's no uncomfort. There's no personal feelings. And that's just simply not true, because people are all in. Business and personal is one bucket. And learning how to work with and through people is what differentiates every company. So it really is my favorite topic. And I'm a student for life in this. You will never arrive. It really is a whole different thing working with and through people. But the biggest thing is, money's been fourth on why people leave forever. It's the relationships with their direct report that they report to, and the feeling of something more impactful that they're behind. So we try to address both those things every way possible. And sometimes it's as simple as, like I said, we hire around our core values. We do so much work up front to let people know what they're a part of, to set the expectations up front, and we hold people accountable to that. But I can't do it alone. It really gets its momentum when you have a mutually accountable team. When you have a front desk employee somewhere grab another employee who doesn't have a name tag and say, that's not how we do things around here. Remember championship mentality, they said? That is not a championship mentality. We are going to win. And if an inspection came through and we got marked down, all these 8 people, not Big Chris up there, is going to kick your ass. That's the type of feeling and the teamwork we want, is someone just, ripping someone up, to pulling them back out the thing and say, hey, I noticed you went into that bathroom and left it a little dirty. Does that look like championship mentality to you? And that, to get to that point, is the magic. To get to the point where someone walks in as a customer and says, I have to have my son, daughter work here. I have to work here. I want to be a part of this. I want it to feel, look, everything should be different. And it's because of the engagement. And it is very, very difficult, especially with first-time employees, young employees, minimum wage employees. There's all of these different characteristics and complexions. But the magic is, how do you engage people?
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Hearing championship mentality, I was actually getting goosebumps while you were describing that, because I started to envision what even my business would look like if every single employee from the ground up embodied the same ideal of what standard we're going to hold in this building, that we're going to be the gold standard. We don't accept anything other than being great. You know what I mean? That championship mentality, that is probably an infectious energy. If you can get a couple people on board and you really hammer it down initially, you almost would create a bigger sense of pride in the people too.
Yeah.
They take pride in the fact that they are the different people. They're the people that wake up in the morning and make their bed when the other person leaves it messy. They're the type of people that go the extra mile for their company because they want to, not because they're being told to.
There's this great JFK and NASA story I love, where everyone had, which it's a very important thing for a business, called the rallying cry. And we had one of our businesses, it was impact someone today. We did a lot of work, made it very simple, so that if one employee who only works 4 hours a week comes in, they know that no matter what, their expectation is to impact someone, whatever it may be, however you can do it, that trumps everything else you have going on. And there's a story where someone walked in and they were so impressed by this one division of NASA's production that they walked in and they saw a janitor one day and they said, what keeps you going? And he said, we're putting a man on the moon. The janitor. And it's like they were so bought in down to that level that every freaking person was rowing the same direction. And that's what you need, is alignment, crazy, obsessive alignment, to the point where, like you said, you get 2-3 people in there, they get defensive of their culture. They want to be, how much better to say, why are you talking to me? Go talk to, just this Shifley, this front desk employee's been here 6 months. Go talk to them and see what their experience is like. And once you start getting that mentality, people take ownership over everything and get really, really engaged. And I know I didn't really touch on how, but one of the biggest, simplest techniques we do is around personal values for our employees. So in our company systems, every single employee every 30 days will go out with their direct report and have a conversation around their personal core values and how they're doing leading them with and through those values. Now, would I lead someone whose number one value is teamwork versus number one value is independence or recognition? Totally different. So you have to lead people through, of course, your company values. You don't want to compromise on those and ethics, but you want to lead people through their values, and that's how you engage and motivate them, is by knowing your people, knowing what makes them tick. And I love that quote that leadership is like checkers, management is like checkers. Every piece moves the same, and leadership is like chess. Everything moves differently, and you have to know why and how they move. And I've always had that mindset of, my dad always used the example that he used to just give people Starbucks cards if he caught them doing something right. And that was great, but some people might not like coffee or this or that. But once you start getting to know people, and maybe you find out someone's a single mom, and how much more impactful is it to say, hey, I know that, Susan got out of school earlier this week or has a long weekend. How about you go take off the weekend paid? And how much more motivation and engagement are you going to get from someone when you're leading them through their values? So that's how you get that high level engagement, is you're aware of why. We want to get people where they want to be, whether it's with our company or somewhere else. But like if we're planning an event for a grand opening and I know one person's in school to be an event coordinator, I'm going to bring her into that, get engagement, get motivation, and not treat everything the same, and let them know that they're part of something special. Let them know why we're changing lives, why we're different, what we set out to do. Like at Single Barrel, we tell every person that comes through the door, we do not want to be the place to go in Livingston County. We want to be the place to work. We want to bring something special. We want to change these industries where, when I first got into the gym industry, they told us if you have 100% turnover a year, you're doing well. That means every year you turn over every employee. How do you get traction? How do you get visions and culture in a mutually accountable team if every year you got new people coming in? And we want to get to that point where we don't turn over a manager for 2-3 years and get that continuity, that momentum, and it just becomes a internal engine of growth, culture, obsession, to the point where I know if I take out even a low-level person from one of the companies and put them in a new store, that culture is going to grow because they're so bought in. They love it. They're defensive, protective, and they feel ownership over what we're trying to accomplish, and they know that what we're trying to do is so different than other places.
Man, I didn't realize you're a coach. That's not a credential I listed, but really you're a coach.
Yeah,
you are a coach for your businesses. The same way that on the mat, I'm explaining every detail of why a jiu-jitsu submission works or why they should throw a kick in a certain way. You're a coach.
Yep.
You're a coach in the way to design people's mentality to have that championship spirit. And really what I heard during that conversation is you're changing the game. Back in the day, I feel like the old model for business was you had a manager who smashed down on people and basically told them, these are the deadlines that you will hit. These are the numbers we expect you to pull. Here's the black and white system. And if you don't achieve this, you'll lose your job and we'll replace you with someone that does. It was like the old style,
right.
You know what I mean? And you see a lot of memes about leaders versus managers, and a lot of them are very accurate.
Yeah.
But you are redefining the game almost into like a healthy family or a top level professional sports team,
right,
where you are showing everybody what they're capable of accomplishing as a unit when they all individually express their best.
That's right.
It's beautiful, man.
It's
like
huge.
Hearing this is phenomenal. It's just such good insight. Anyone listening to this, regardless of what career you're in, regardless of what profession, this is little bits of gold being dropped down that it's just people skills.
That's it. It's like, give me when I hire, we hire so much. I mean, if I was starting a new company right now and we were doing Smoothie King, the restaurant industry knowledge is so minimal compared to the soft skills, the emotional intelligence, the people development. That's why the CEO of Ford can go to Taco Bell. It has nothing to do with the product or the intelligence. It's all about their ability to engage people, work with and through people. And that's been my addiction, is kind of getting that Bill Belichick playbook that this works on anything, because we get people engaged, we motivate them, work with and through them, and we know how to set up the business for consistency, value, something that separates us and makes us different.
So we almost have to get to training our children and the upcoming generations to be more involved in their social skills and their leadership development skills and these type of mindsets than really, memorize and regurgitate old information. You know what I mean? Because that was like something that drove me nuts during school is, you'd stuff a bunch of information in, I would throw it up on a test, I would show you that I was a good little student, like, hey, I learned this, I repeated. But really, what defines people that are ultra successful in life or people that have endless potential is their ability to interact with the world around them in a healthy and productive way. If I'm able to bring out the best in the people around me and bring out the best in myself, I'm going to be so far beyond someone that might have a piece of paper that says they're worthy. You know what I mean? Like, so we almost have to change the conversation back to grassroots
Yeah.
of learn how to interact with your community and be someone that people want to be around.
That's right.
Be someone that people are inspired by. You
That's
know what I
right.
mean? And man, just having this conversation, it's phenomenal. I have another question for you. If you had to say greatest weakness you have, because we've talked
Yeah.
all about all the super powerful skills, but I love showing the duality of
Sure.
people. You know what I mean? A weakness that you think, whether it's your obsession in this area causes this area to falter, or whether it's just anything.
Yeah.
What would you consider a weakness?
I
that you
have this. It's been said to me many times by many of my personal coaches that the definition of a weakness in business is an overused strength. And I think that's been my biggest issue is because if you put me in a room and ask me like, why are the top 3 reasons I'm successful? I feel pretty strong in knowing that it's dominance, intensity, all those things, ability to take over, stir conflict. But when you're successful with those things, as you want to overuse them, and you tend to kind of, smart people want to be smart. Certain people want to do certain things, coaches want to coach. It's when do you know when to step away and remove, and getting better at knowing when to push, when to pull. That's a lifelong struggle in this business is two people, it's two subjective pieces. It's very difficult for someone who's because I'm very pride myself on my logic, my intensity, ability to kind of analyze things. But when you're dealing with that gray area people stuff, it's so prone to mistakes and issues. And, it's people come off so strong sometimes, but they take things so personal, and just the ability to kind of recognize that and humble yourself and connect with your people and know you're wrong and know you don't know the answers is tough for anyone who's proud of what they do and loves what they do. It's tough for me when I hear that, do a 360 review or an exit interview with someone and they feel that all these things I'm talking about they didn't feel or they were wrong, and it ruins my day for a week because I love this stuff so much. So I think just it causes a lot of blind spots, right? The intensities, all these things, how much I care about all this stuff, that people are definitely afraid to tell me certain things sometimes if I don't do a good enough job building trust. And we've redefined trust in our company. It's not about, a lot of people treat trust as predictability. You're going to do your job. I know you got my back. Wrong. Trust is vulnerability. And it's about how can I really tell you and feel comfortable telling you, if a key employee leaves and they just say, oh, they weren't really fit, or I thought they were going, or this or that, I know that I have not done a good enough job building vulnerable trust. I want people to be able to come to me and say, I don't know, man. I don't know why she left. I spent a lot of time with her. It was a hard blow to the company, and I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I need to review this with you. I need people to be able to come to me. And I think because I get so excited and passionate and hopped up, it's hard for people to feel like I'm listening or I'm receptive. And so it's all those things, a lot of perceptions that I know don't come across the way I intend. And it's just so hard to compromise on them because I love my intensity. I love all this, but it can be the other side of that is you're not listening. You're short, you're distracted, you don't follow through, you don't follow up. You just loudspeaker about this or that, or you don't give me that, you don't listen, or I can't do this. I know so many of my blind spots and weaknesses, but it's tough to keep them top of mind. So those are all big.
Tell me the top activities you do outside of the business world that you think have helped your mental growth or your personal growth or things like that, whether it's reading or martial arts or anything in general. What are things that, maybe someone's invested heavily in business, but, they're looking for other avenues to grow as a human being? Give me a couple things that you do.
Yeah. So, I think any passionate pursuit, like you said, in the fight world, your mindset that you apply to things can be applied anywhere. So I think anything that you're passionate about just brings about so much information for yourself if you're willing to look at it and analyze it. But definitely, I take from everything that I do and kind of take from every interaction, but obviously definitely jiu-jitsu and that whole world has been fantastic. But the personal growth, really, I honestly believe, and I know a lot of people don't think I think this, but I can learn something from anyone. And I believe that at my core. So personal growth, it's something I'm intentional about every day. And my dad, even at 62, is on my ass every day about what I'm still doing, sending me books. Make sure you do this. Make sure you follow up with this person. Make sure you do this. And so the personal growth journey has really been it. So a lot of reading, a lot of podcasts, just shoving as much in my brain as I can, and maybe one or two nuggets in there, but it's worth it. So I think just that personal growth constant has been everything for me.
So you really subscribe to the theory about just take in as much as humanly possible, because you'll find the little gems in there.
That's right.
While you're compiling all the information, it might even click a couple months down the road. I've had it happen to me. I listen to a motivational speech. I play it for the 5th time, and for some reason, one sentence just hits different. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I go, man, that's a deep concept. And then it takes me down a whole nother road that I didn't really brainstorm into before.
That's right.
Man, that's
We put this huge emphasis on everyone. We do not want you to be the lid of the organization. And that means you just, if you're the lid, your people can only grow up to where you are. And that's something that my dad has embodied, as he has taken that burden of leadership and being accountable and responsible for his people's well-being, that he knows you can never have too much input of knowledge that can make people's lives better that work for you. So if you're a leader and you don't like personal growth, that's not really a subjective issue. Get out, because you're ruining your people's lives if you are not personally growing. If you're the lid on your organization, you should stop. You're ruining lives. I mean, I believe that so strongly that I feel that pressure and that burden to learn and grow. And when I don't want to and I don't feel like it, I'm still having that input.
How does Chris Kleba define success?
To me, success is it's very tough trying to feel happiness about your achievements because they're so complex and there's so many moving parts.
That's why I asked that question, because I can see you're so obsessive in the way that you're always trying to grow, you're always trying to learn, you're always trying to progress. How do you define that success?
when someone I interviewed 6 months later, a year later, says everything that you told me is true from day one, it just melts my heart. Because if I can come, like I said, I've made myself tried to be so good at this interviewing and hiring process that I tell people, all these things, we're win, we're changing lives, we're doing these things for people, come on board, trust me, we're performance based, we're going to do these things, I'm going to give you the tools to change lives. Not only am I being a leader, but I'm going to give you tools to give to people, to change lives, to make it about something bigger than a job. When people 6 months later, a year later are, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions up in the company because they took that risk and they performed and put their time on the line, and they come up and say, this was life changing to me, this impacted me, everything you said was true, I'm changing lives, my life's changed. That's the biggest victory for me.
You're in the business of growing leaders.
That's right.
You're in the business of showing other people almost how to be like you in that way.
That's right. Tell people our product we are the most proud of is our leaders at all of our businesses. That's our number one product is our people.
And the beautiful thing is, as we're having this conversation, I feel those words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It hits me on an emotional level. I can see the investment that you have for that. It's not just words, because there's a lot of people say things like that. There's a lot of people that say, oh yeah, I'm in the blah, blah, blah. I can feel it when you say it. So that type of energy radiates out from you. It's almost like, people have auras and your energy is infectious. And when you actually have that passionate commitment to who you are and what you stand for, people can't help but notice it. Even if you weren't saying the words, they would feel it.
Right.
Tell me about what's been the greatest moment that you would consider of success in your life? Because you've had tons of success. You have, unbelievable cars, beautiful home, beautiful business. You have a relentless pursuit in this life to really challenge yourself and keep growing. Is there one moment, a defining moment in your business or, just your personal life that you really felt like, I feel successful? Even maybe that first moment when you really felt like you're breaking barriers, you're going to achieve some upper echelon one day that you're chasing. Is there a certain moment you can remember?
It's kind of a culmination of many little moments, but every time someone from my past or someone who I connect with trusts me enough to just reach out to me to grab a coffee to discuss these things, those are big moments of success for me, because you can do so much. And when you're in the business, of course, it's like I always tell people, the good thing about being a manager before you're a leader, it's like you get a chance to take people on these interactions and they don't really get a say, right? It's like saying I get to go on a million first dates with all these girls and you don't get to say no, because that is the good thing, is you get that open invite. But when people reach out to you unsolicited and you start to build that momentum where people have an expectation that time with you is going to lead to something or some feeling that they have, those are my most successful moments. So when I get someone, I save every text message, every note, every card I've ever gotten where someone says, you changed my life. I came on board to be a leader. I have these skills because of you. You've changed my relationships, my marriage, my kids are going to be stronger because of you. All those it's a culmination of all this work, because you don't necessarily see it. Like I said, it's subjective and it's tough, and we do get a ton of results on the numbers side, but it's just because of this, and it's hard to measure engagement on the leadership spectrum because it is so moving and different for people. So anytime I get a little note or a card like that, I save it, and means everything to me.
I can tell that your happiness actually comes from helping other people.
Right.
Even though, you're crazy successful in business, and a lot of people would think that you might be, your financial gains or things like that would cause your success comes from helping other people. Your success comes from inspiring people to be the best version of themselves, and in turn giving back to the company, and then bringing everybody's level up and having that championship mentality. That directly impacts your happiness.
That's right.
And, I'm another example sitting right here, because this is the first episode of the From the Ground Up podcast, where my goal is to invite leaders and people in this community that I am inspired by, with hope that other people will listen to this and be like, man, I'm inspired by that. I want to be more like that. I want to grow like that. Imagine a community where we had a large amount of people like that living passionately. So the first person I wanted to interview, I said, I want Chris Klebba to be the number one guy because I feel that way. You know what I mean? So you are succeeding. You are successful in that way. People think of you in that manner.
Right.
But yeah, it's just like I said, as we sit here and speak, I can see that your happiness is based on your impact on the people around you.
Right. And it's just growing up, I've heard my whole life how intelligent I am in this or that. So I think, one of the most impactful quotes I ever got, it's so simple, but it's just that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So that meant my success is directly related on how I engage and motivate and treat people. My intelligence is such a non-factor in the businesses. No, it's very rare that a business fails because of intelligence or lack of industry knowledge. It's all about those people, the soft skills, the gray area, and I just got to live in that, embrace it, and I've just adopted that challenge, and it's made it so special for me.
If you could recommend a book or a podcast or a speaker or somebody that you know that is like, man, on a high rate of success, when I tune to this, I find what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So there's a book called The 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. Give it to every first-time leader in our company. Every single person is mandated to read that book in 90 days. It's life-changing. The simplest way to make the switch in the mental commitment from understanding management versus leadership is that book. And John Maxwell, still one of the best leadership coaches I think I've ever been exposed to. Done a ton of learning with him. But the 5 levels of leadership will change your perception on everything to do with management versus leadership and how to start building the steps through your people, how to get results through people, how to really turn that around to my success is not but about what I do or my productivity, but about how successful, how productive I can make my teams. And that book really gives you the tools, the mindset, the definitions to make that happen. That'd be my absolute recommendation.
I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to follow up with you and tell you the insight that I pull from it. I love books that have deep meaning and impact.
It's a nice,
like
short, easy read, and it's so simple and so impactful.
I've had that happen with some books that are considered children's book. There was a book called Who Moved My Cheese? You ever heard of it?
I think so, yeah.
It's about two little groups of mice that one set of the mice want complacency, comfort. They already have their little spot of cheese. Mm-hmm. They don't want to move, even though there could be something else in the maze that could be way bigger, grander. They don't want to take the chance. They know they have a little bit of cheese here and they want to stay there. And there's the other two in the book that are constantly in the pursuit of, hey, we have this, but there's something bigger out there. There's something. And I mean, it's funny as it is. It's a children's book, but I read it when I was a lot younger. And I remember being like, I want to be like that. I don't want to be the type of person that just otherwise, maybe I reached that initial point at 22 years old. Then I'm just kind of spending my time until the end of my days. Yeah. I've already achieved my success. That doesn't make sense. Right. I want to be the guy that says, wait a second, what else is out there? What else can I do? What can I learn from? How can I grow? How do I? And there's a book called The Alchemist. I don't know if you ever read it, but it's a story basically of being able to go from one thing to another without the fear of failure, with allowing the past to go. And it's just about a shepherd that travels the world with a flock of sheep, and then he loses his sheep. And anyway, it's a phenomenal book on the ideas that can first get you propelled, and then from that point, if we shift in here, the whole world shifts.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I really like what you just said about you mandate. Your people have to read that book.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
It's a burden that we all feel about leadership. It's a burden to take care of your people and make your people's lives better. It's something that we feel actively every day, and it truly is. Like I said, it's just you feel that weight of leadership. It's huge to all of us, and I think, like you said, we're all kind of born with this innate ability to make an impact, but a lot of our system, unfortunately, kind of derails us into this minute, myopic approach to not necessarily success, but just a lifestyle where everything just prepares you for paycheck income and it all funnels you into college and education and one path to success. I got in trouble in school for saying that I was going to open a business and not go to a college, and my dad had to come in and scream at everyone. All these things are happening where we have to undo. We're not just doing a leadership organization. We understand what we have to do to get rid of some of the baggage people are coming in with, because of their whole lives they've been prepared for one road to what society deems success, and that's it. And it doesn't involve risk. It doesn't involve any of these things. Accountability, hard decisions, hard feelings on yourself, a lot of sleepless nights. It doesn't involve that stuff. It's a very safe and predictable route, but there's so many paths to success. And that's what I try to really, enforce with people, is it's not just paycheck income and college and they all just funnel you into that system of growth. There's so much more you can do. And there's a wide open business landscape, a wide open chance to change industries, to bring your own touch to things and to just get going,
So you don't play by the rules. You're not the person that there was a set of rules laid out before you that said, hey,
Right.
you wake up like this, you do that, and that's what life is. You're the person that challenges those rules, or at least takes a steps back and reflects on those and says, no, I'm going to make my employees read this book.
Right.
I'm going to make my employees attend these meetings and demand a higher standard of them. We're not going to simply accept it like, well, you know what, show up here, work between these hours, hit these basic tasks. You're redefining the game.
Yep.
Like I said before, you're basically saying, no, if you're going to be a part of this organization, you're a part of something special.
Yeah.
But if you do that, it'll change your life for the better.
Yeah. You got to identify those things you're not going to compromise on. And, those ethics, those types of things, we are not very lenient on those things. We will be as patient we want if someone's rowing in the right direction, but we do not compromise on those things we've identified. They're everything to us.
No, I love it, man. Hearing this, man, I'm fired up. My employees better watch out. I'm going to be setting new standards. But because, really, I try to inspire people to be the best human beings that they can be and give their best. But I never even thought about demanding a standard of a championship mindset that, this is just the level that we perform at here.
Right.
It's a higher level. It's like I want to inspire you to do that, but I can already see my own shortcomings in the way that if someone doesn't, I almost take a step back and say, okay, they're just not willing to get to that level.
Right.
But why am I willing to have someone that's not at that level as a part of my company, which is, what I'm trying to build throughout this life? Why would I not care about the standard of, my company in every single aspect? Like you said, when you talked about the janitor at NASA, that's unbelievable.
Yep.
They somehow got a gentleman mopping the floors that had the same vision. The reason I am giving 1,000% every day is we are going to put a man on the moon. That guy could have equally, and he would have been like, I'm just mopping the floor.
Right.
No, he's not just mopping the floor. He is keeping the facility clean that is going to change the world.
Yep, and
That's in here.
Yep, guarantee that came from someone at the top. His direct report,
100%.
taking him out, getting him involved, getting him engaged, knowing his story, getting him to feel like he was contributing. That's why when a championship wins, every single person gets a ring. It's not just the players that were on the team, and that's kind of the mindset we take. Is everyone is vital to this journey. Everyone's vital to this success, and we want them to feel that their production and what they're contributing means something, and you have to tell people that. It's why when you come from a Burger King to one of our Smoothie King locations, it's going to feel so much different because everyone feels like they're contributing, and we're trying to get to that point of alignment, and that's what keeps us all inspired. And last bit on the values, like you mentioned, is when people think that because I have these great teams set up or this or that, you can kind of sit back and let your people perform and just have fun. It's like the real hard part is, like you said, once you define something, the accountability side is on you if you're the leader. It's all those hard conversations of remember those values we decided on at our retreat. Does this look like this? And those hard conversations to defend it and keep it alive. It's a lot of uncomfortable stuff. And that's why this job, it's like a lot of removing, identifying where the next difficult conversation is. And a lot of people run from that. Like you said, the victim mentality, this is a whole different kind of similar setup where I have to remove myself and identify the next difficult, uncomfortable conversation to keep the business afloat, to keep everything moving. I have to look for conflict. I have to look for accountability issues. I have to look for all that stuff and live and breathe the stuff that most people avoid and run from. And that's really what separates us, I think. And
that's what makes you successful.
Yep.
And that's probably what fires you up because you see the results of that product, and then that inspires you to, continue going.
Right. You start to get momentum. Nothing can stop momentum. I don't know the exact science, the analogy, a big little rock can stop a giant train, but if that thing's even moving a couple miles an hour, it's going to blow through cement. And it's once you get that momentum and you get other people involved and mutually accountable, it starts to really just that internal engine starts revving, and it's the most beautiful thing in business where you can feel that it's not just a leader, and everything that we introduce, we're holding each other mutually accountable to.
There's a couple moments in my life where I felt like life almost feels like a movie where certain things just intersect in a way that it feels like a pre-scripted movie. Like somehow dots just align. So I'm going to reflect back to something you'll remember. When I was about to launch the brand, the Michigan Institute of Athletics, I thought of every single person that I had met and said, who would I like to sit down to and talk about this idea? Because before that, we were just Scorpion Fighting System. You remember. But we had outgrown Scorpion Fighting System. We're so much bigger than just a professional fight team now. And I reached out to you. And I said, Chris, would you have a day that you could come in and sit down and let me pitch this idea to you?
Yeah.
Where I'm going with this is it feels like that moment again. Because right now, in 3 weeks from now, anyone that's listening right now, you're about to get a piece of information that no one else knows about outside of this thing. I'm actually starting this part of SFS, which only our coaches have been meeting for a couple months in secret. We're launching an SFS Elite program where we're going to have required class attendance, required performance things. You have to hit multiple elements. You have to do strength conditioning through the week. You have to do wrestling, jiu-jitsu, striking. And we're going to have contracts signed by people. We're going to kick people out of the program that don't do it. this conversation is almost giving me this trippy Twilight Zone feeling because I'm about to launch SFS Elite. You know what SFS Elite sounds like? Exactly what you and I discussed this entire time. Because we sat down, me and the coaches sat down and said, this is unbelievable that we've produced these local kids fighting in countries around the world at the highest level. And you know what the funny thing is? We have zero requirements here. If you show up to this academy and you put the effort in and you listen to the coaches, you're probably going to be successful because we've shown with countless people that we can take kids right off the street and put them onto ESPN and Fox Sports and all over the world. We have 3 people fighting for UFC contender this season. It's unbelievable. And the funny thing is, that is with zero standards. That's just with, you know what, we have a great environment and the information here can make you successful.
That's right.
What are we going to accomplish when SFS Elite launches and we have 6 coaches meeting every single week, brainstorming, holding every person accountable, saying, you made these commitments. If you don't follow through with these commitments, it's not that we wish you bad or ill or anything like that, but you will not be a part of this program.
That's right.
It's that simple. It's going to be the championship mentality. Everything you and I have spoke about today, I am literally going to be putting into effect in SFS Elite. What is the what are the odds that, you know what I'm saying, just at moments in life things you know, intersect and it's just the perfect time and place. You know, so think about that. I mean, you've seen SFS build from almost the time that we were a basement team until what it is now. And you know that, like, I let people come and go as they please. I give my best to them while I'm on the mats, and you've seen some of our fighters succeeding around the world. Imagine what will take place when you have every coach dialed in and you have people committing to, like, and the way we started saying this when me and my coach started brainstorming, we were going, if you play for the Detroit Lions or the Detroit Red Wings or any of these people, do you get to just do whatever you want all week long and then show up on game day and be successful and be a part of the team? And absolutely not. You have standards that you are held to. You have requirements that you are expected to hit because at the end of the day, we're not investing this much time and energy to be mediocre. Especially in a game like fighting. You have someone trying to smash your body, break your mind, break your body in front of your family and friends, and knock your team down, knock you down, set you back, physically injure you. Why would you not be giving that level that other people are just not? You know what I mean? So it's incredible because we have a mandatory team meeting. You're in our SFS group page. If you went back a couple weeks, you'd see August 2nd, we have a mandatory team meeting, and it's to launch SFS Elite. This is so this conversation, like I said, I feel like I'm living in a movie because it just couldn't have come at a better time. I want to shift to one thing that I read about recently. So you've probably seen all the things going on with defund the police and abolish the police, which is just madness. Like, but anyway, without going too much into that controversy, New York just passed a new bill where police officers now may not affect the diaphragm of a suspect at all during detaining them, like during an arrest. And it is a criminal charge, even if unintentional. You and I practice jiu-jitsu. That means kneeling on someone, sitting in mount position, taking someone's back, in any way that legislation deems you affect the diaphragm is now a criminal offense. Imagine police officers with people violently trying to come at them that, first of all, across this nation, receive much less training than they deserve to be the people going out in uniform and tackling, you know, criminals at a much higher rate than you and I. You and I could get into a fight outside on the street. It is something that we could encounter. But the likelihood of it compared to a police officer is incredibly small. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to not allow police officers to control human beings with the most effective forms of doing so without harming them. Because, okay, let's say you said to me, okay, James, I'm going to send this drugged up, huge, angry man after you. You're not allowed to use jiu-jitsu or I'm going to criminally process you. Stop. I'm going to physically have to either have to use my baton, I might have to tase him, I might have to physically punch him in the face and to the point where I can control him. Why would we take away the ability to control someone? Like if you watch like the Gracie survival tactics, I know you're familiar with that. It is all about not harming the suspect, but making sure that they can't harm you.
You're putting more tools in their toolbox. It's just, that's why when you say defund, I mean, that's why the answer tends to be no. I mean, this is when we need more than ever training, funding, more tools in their toolboxes. You know, my brother is a cop and he's a trainer with Gracie survival tactics, a certified instructor, and just watching and observing what they do and their mindset of de-escalation and all the steps they can take before lethal force is huge. And I think if every cop knew jiu-jitsu, I would feel a million times safer. I would want my kids to be a cop. I would want this because it would be a safer place. You could probably take away if every cop had a black belt and no gun, I would feel safer. I would feel more effective. All this stuff, it's just because I've seen the beauty of what it can be, the beauty of control, how even just doing jiu-jitsu with Henner, even the submissions are so out of mind. Even when you're rolling in jiu-jitsu, it's all about other steps and control and survival and these types of mindset things, just like you teach. And it scares me that you're taking more tools away when they're already afraid to. I'm scared every day for my brother. I'm scared every day for every cop because it's this is
a huge topic for me right now.
Scrutiny.
My cousin Shane is like one of the best people that I grew up with. We were like brothers growing up. He's an officer in Philadelphia, and I'm literally thinking, man, we're living in the most wild time right now. That guy is truly putting his life on the line. He's got a young baby at home. He's and he's a great human being, but he's going to interact with criminals.
Yeah.
And with that being said, now all of a sudden in different places they're removing funding. They're taking away training, and they're taking away their ability to do their job effectively.
Right.
It's scaring me, man. I'm looking at society right now, and what happens is when you have people that are uneducated on topics,
That's right.
trying to shift a narrative based on like an incredibly horrific event like George Floyd.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what color skin you have, what social status you have, where you are in society. That incident should bother you. But you don't allow that to, in the emotions of that event, to enact legislation that is going to create many worse situations.
Right.
Because I tell you right now, if you take an officer and you take away their ability to maintain someone like that, they're going to do it somehow.
Yeah.
And then it may get more violent. They might have to resort to their weapon more often. We should be doing the opposite right now. We should be getting people together and saying, listen, we have a massive problem right now where police are in these really difficult situations, and a lot of them don't have the training. And that's the flat-out reality. There are so many officers that have come in here that a white belt teenager will ragdoll.
That's right.
Will ragdoll. And this is someone that we need to entrust our lives to, or in a horrible event, they have to be able to control someone. You said it really well. I would almost rather, if police were all black belts, you know what? Most people after a couple interactions would go, you know what? You just don't tangle with them because they're going to hold you down. They're going to arrest you and you're going to get charged. You know what I mean? Right now, you know what it does? It calms the emotional factor.
Yeah.
Someone grabs a hold of me, it doesn't trigger this crazy fear for my life response where now all of a sudden, in someone's mind, they might think, I'm going to die. He grabbed my neck. You grab my neck. It doesn't even, no change takes place in my mindset. I just work out of the situation, take control of you.
Right.
An officer that's untrained, someone grabs his throat, might think my life was on the line. I had to shoot him.
Right.
We need to, right now more than ever, fund the police.
Yeah.
We need to have honest conversation about the changes that need to be enacted. Police brutality is absolutely an issue. If police are being brutal without, justified reasons for that force, that is a problem. I believe any human being on the planet would be like, we shouldn't have police brutality when not necessary. But if you live in a world where you don't believe at times an officer might need to slam down a suspect and put them in handcuffs, that's just a utopia. It doesn't exist.
Right.
If you have someone on drugs or someone that's violently coming at someone, you need to use force.
Yep.
You can't have non-force meet force. The force is going to win. Okay, you have to match it. You have to control the suspect in the situation, and you have to take control of the situation.
Right.
So recently, I actually offered a program to police where I was 50% off the local police officers. And believe it or not, I actually got scrutiny about that. I got several messages to my inbox saying, why in the world would you support making the police more dangerous?
Yeah.
But it's not. We need to shift the education in this country and say, we're not making the police more dangerous. We are literally making your interactions with police safer. It might be humiliating if they hold you down and you can't do anything to them to hurt them and they arrest you, but at least they didn't shoot you. They didn't tase you. That officer that maybe had to that punched that suspect several times, if that takes place, in his mind, that might have been him just trying to get you to stop fighting back, right? Whereas if he had a tool that if he knew he put your arm in this way or put his weight on you in a certain fashion, and he felt that I'm going to be safe from harm, we could handle these situations a lot better.
You're giving them more non-lethal tools. That's what they need. Every non-lethal tool in the toolbox possible 100%. Is what they need.
Because I tell you what, on anyone's worst day, we've all done things we're not proud of. We've all probably freaked out on people, but we don't deserve to lose our life over it. Exactly. You know what I mean? So you know what? Someone gets pulled over, they're having a horrible day. Maybe they do mouth off to the police. We want to give the officers every tool possible to handle the situation in a way that both people go home.
Yep.
You know what? And hopefully both reflect on the situation and make progress, because taking someone's life's a permanent thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're the extreme examples where you see officers that do shoot people where it's really hard to figure out why but those are few and far between.
Yeah.
Usually it is a heightened emotional state where things are crazy. There's a back and forth exchange and then someone gets shot.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we need to give people tools.
Yeah.
We need to, the same way that you were talking about building a business where
That's
you
right.
need to provide information and the ability for those people to then take those traits and become successful. We have to do that with the police.
Right.
So like I said, I'm getting a little bit off topic here because I wanted to have a leadership discussion, but I had just read the article yesterday and I was like, man, as a jiu-jitsu coach, that's heartbreaking for me to hear.
It really is.
I mean, I challenge any police officer in the state of Michigan to come in and try to detain or arrest me in a safe setting without putting pressure on my diaphragm. You're not allowed to be on top of me. You're not allowed to try to put your knee on me in any. You will physically never be able to control me. Period. Right. You're not going to be able to. And not even just me. I'm a jiu-jitsu coach. You might write that off. Any of my students. I'll grab a student, and if you are not allowed to put weight on them, you will not be able to. I mean, that side control, mount, anything. In New York, that's now criminal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And we have to get back to reality. Emotions feel real. They anger you. They can depress you. They can crush you. But they're often not reality. You have to remove the emotions from a situation and say, are we driving action in a direction that is going to be successful, or are we going to do things based off emotion that are going to lead to more problems?
Right.
I'm telling you right now, if you're a police officer in New York, I feel bad for you.
I know.
I don't know, after 18 years of jiu-jitsu, how I would control an angry, huge human being coming after me if I could not put weight on them. How would you do it?
Lethal force, what are you going to do? I mean,
I'm going to have to tase you.
You got to worry about your own firearm retention. Meanwhile,
100%.
all the time too. I know that's why I roll with my brother's friends. I'm like, okay, I could try to go for your gun, and you got to arrest me. We'll see what happens. It's, you know how it is. It's just it's crazy, and it's you like you said. You look at where they're coming from right now. It's already fractured. It's already under scrutiny. It's already lack of training. They're already going in right to the hours because they're understaffed. Like the movie, like Flint Town. I mean, these people are tasked with a huge uphill battle, and we are not giving them any resources they need to be successful. And when they act, they'd just be like I said, for someone, a first-time manager doing something stupid and me just coming in and fire them, not doing one thing, not anything. And we got to, just like if a teacher were to sexually assault a student, these things, we don't condemn schools and teacher and pass it. It's the same type of thing. It's that's where we're going here, is looking at it in this new perspective. And
No, it's incredible, man. So I really feel like we have to be honest in this society moving forward. When things get really difficult and challenging, we should all engage in debate. We should all have challenging dialogue. We should be honest. We should talk about incidents like George Floyd and police brutality and all these things, and we should talk about them with an open ear. Because I feel like, I made a post on Facebook, and oh my God, the amount of attacks that came my direction. We need to talk about these events. It may feel uncomfortable. It may be painful. You might not want to hear the words that someone else has to say, but if we don't allow opinions and opposing ideas to come together, we can't sort through the mess and come up with proper resolution.
That's right.
Like you said, I would predict in New York, police incidents with violence are going to go up. They're going to go up because all of a sudden, if you remove the police's ability to do their job in a safe way, they want to go home to their family. If they know if they get into a scuffle, they can't even put weight and restrain you. Now all of a sudden your gun is way more likely to get grabbed. I can't mount you or flatten you out in a way that I know I have you controlled. So now all of a sudden I'm going to tase you. I'm telling you right now as a jiu-jitsu coach, if I'm not allowed to put weight on you, I'm not even going to resort to it then. Yeah. I'm going to maintain distance, and if you come in that distance, I'm going to resort to a quick escalation of things. And I try to be the most level-headed person I can. You know what I mean? So
good cops are going to leave. I mean, you have to make careers attractive. You have to make certain things attractive to people and know that if I join the NYPD, I'm going to get all these tools and resources that are going to make me a better human. I'm going to get so many de-escalation techniques. I'm going to be trained at a high level, rewarded at a high level. When you defund, I mean, who wants a $30,000 cop looking out for my life? And all the people I affect, if I have kids, this or that, who wants a $30,000 employee with no resource responsible for my loved ones? That's terrifying. So why would I want every resource. I wish they had every tool at their disposal. I would gladly pass on some of my, as strong as I feel about civil liberties, I would gladly concede some of that to give them more resources, more things on their tool belt to help and make them feel more respected. Yeah.
Anyone that's against the police in this situation, I want you to honestly, deeply think about the idea that if you're against any form of police brutality, obviously you don't ever want to see an officer have to kill a suspect. But I want you to think about being in the situation where someone is going to come at you as violently and as aggressively as possible. You are now not allowed to detain them with your weight in any way on their body, and they're going to try to take your life from you. How are you going to stop that suspect? I want you to think about that question.
Yeah.
How are you going to stop that suspect? You're not going to be able to without shooting them or seriously injuring them.
That's right.
And all you've done with the legislation because of the outrage is you've made that cop more vulnerable to scrutiny, and you've made that cop have to do more extremes.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So, man, I hope we can turn this year around.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of good out of this year for resets, but there's a lot of stuff that's scaring me that because I try to stay up on legislation and changing events because I care about this country.
And I know something we both care about is something that's very impressive to me about you, and I know something that I've really gone to pride myself on is trying to be about communication, understanding, and I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to understand. I really try to think of other perspectives, have a lot of different input like you do, because I'm just so afraid that how many more things are we going to politicize now where it's almost like I said it the other day, it's like the old Detroit unions where, how do I feel about masks? Let me check my political affiliation. Oh, this is how I feel, without any feeling, any thought, any discussion. But now because the political sides are so fired up, you already bring this intensity and this, so people are already coming in hot. Like on your Facebook post, that was one of my response. They're already coming in hot because they feel the baggage and it's so hard to unwind. You know, if you were to talk to someone on the completely opposite spectrum, it's emotionally draining to know how many layers you have to go through of misunderstanding and different interpretation. It's exhausting. So to just be able to come to the table with no politics and just listen, understand someone's heart, and be willing to share, be willing to be open and have your mind changed. We need that. I know you pioneer it, and it's huge.
And let's be honest. I mean, these are not team events. People should be against police brutality in general.
That's right.
But we have to be clear about how we define that. Is it actually police brutality, or was it police controlling a violent suspect? We have to have challenging dialogue. We really have to look into events taking place in the society. How can coronavirus be a political issue?
That's right.
How can it be what the one side wants versus the other?
How could a mask be politicized?
How is that possible?
Racism be politicized. It's not. It should not be.
Exactly, because you're buying into teams. You need to get out of all of that, and it's not you versus them. It is people versus problems. We have to come together and find middle ground and solutions. One thing that was shocking to me, because I've never really been into politics at all, but during the whole coronavirus event, I reached out to 6 state representatives, 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats, because I wanted an objective view, because I'm not someone that goes, hey, let me check with my team, are masks good or bad? Guys, I'm a free thinker. I want to work through events, as they come. With that being said, all 3 Republicans followed up with me, got on podcasts or got on Zoom, had long dialogue, broke down the challenging events, changing information, and they were willing to say, listen, like, this is what we're trying to do. These are the difficulties. And it made me feel like a part of the community. Okay, we're working. All 3 Democrats declined. Now, maybe it's just because during the coronavirus thing, they felt like they were on the wrong side of the argument. They really didn't want to discuss it. Maybe they were just subscribing what their team had on board. But it created a really weird feeling for me, because I'm someone that's staying outside of the politics, and half of the group was willing to have challenging conversation with someone that they did not know, that they didn't know how the conversation was going to go, but they put themselves on the line. They said, hey, as an elected official that stands with my constituency, I'm going to have this debate. And you know what? If I don't know, I'll say I don't know, but I'll have the dialogue. And the other group refused to even talk to me. And I'm not someone, it's not like I was, a red person asking a blue to speak, or a blue asking a red. I'm a human being, a business owner, someone that tries to help the community, that was taking a very difficult stance, looking for advice from my elected officials. And only half of them would respond to me. We need to get out of that team mentality. These are not good things for a future. If, like you said, the old union days where you look back and you go, what's my stance on this? That's disempowering yourself. That's shutting down critical thinking. That's closing down debate. That's getting away from challenging ideas, and almost the stuff that you promoted at the beginning of this interview, where you said, I sit down with my team and we try to find conflict. We try to find difficult issues, emotional, vulnerable things, almost that we're uncomfortable speaking about. If we could do that in the world of politics, we would make incredible progress. But the problem is, people look at the other side like they demonize them before they even speak. Oh, you're this, you must be that. We are all human beings, identifying ourselves differently, going through this world with different opinions, different ideas. But the more we continue to divide, and now we're subdivided to a level that I've never seen before. Not only is it red versus blue, it's this status versus that status, it's mask versus unmasked, it's vax versus unvaxxed, it's this. So now all of a sudden you have 70 groups that all think the other groups are wrong. And man, we just need to get back to being human beings that sit down like this, that discuss difficult things, and we bring in other people with different perspective and insight, because maybe you and I, if we were just lawmakers, had never trained jiu-jitsu, watched a video online with George Floyd, saw a man, succumb to those unfortunate circumstances, we might have the idea that, you know what, we can never allow an officer to do that again. And then if you sat down with a council of 5 officers and a couple people trained in the arts, they would say, no, listen, although the perception may seem that way, let me show you why it would be horrific to take that out. Pretend I'm going to come at you violently right now. How would you restrain me?
Yeah. Someone like you or Henner who have trained Israeli counterterrorism. I mean, all over the world. It's adopted by the U.S. Army, all this stuff, the Gracie survival taxes. Listen to these people who have these, it's just a lot of people making uninformed decisions, and it might be well-intentioned, but like you said, about businesses, about schools, about things that affect people. And Patrick Lencioni, this leadership guy, like besides all this, he always defines politics as conflict without trust. That's why in business, so many things get political. It sucks. That's why we work so hard on trust, accountability, vulnerability, because we don't want things to feel political. We don't want people leaving the room feeling like, yeah, it's all bullshit. We want people to feel contribution and understanding, and that's the only way you get a high level of commitment. We go after commitment, not clarity, because we'd rather have, a so-so idea enforced with all of us 100% behind it than something unclear that we're not behind. And it's very similar with this. It's scary, all the stuff we get into, that how political it's gotten, that when you sit down with someone, it's because that trust isn't there for basic human rights. You don't even feel like someone's looking. I mean, it's to the point where people have defined it as you're either for profit or life. How can you say that to someone? I mean, how can you truly say someone's putting profits before life just because they're thinking and asking questions because their livelihood and their circle is in danger or jeopardy? I mean, people just...
That's exactly what happened to me.
You got to get off this social shit. You got to go talk to someone and meet someone who's there, and they're a person with things are never as bad when you're in person. You're there connected, and you see where and why and understand. And it's very hard for me because, like I said, I'm very intense and very logical, all this stuff. So I'm very confident in my beliefs. It's hard to humble yourself and try to understand or be open and shift. That's something, like I said, I respect so much about you, is you challenge people to get in these uncomfortable situations so you can learn and grow and be a difference. You meet one Democrat that could change your mind forever, one Republican that could change your mind forever. You see, okay, this person doesn't. It's not hatred based, and
when you have the door open, when you look at those people as human beings, like you said, that you could learn from. That goes back to your statement earlier in the podcast where you said, "I honestly believe that I can learn from anyone that I meet."
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I feel that same way. I mean, if we are all ones painted on my wall out there, and I have friends in this building that are diehard Democrats that are phenomenal human beings that have impacted my life in a great way.
Right.
And I have people on the other side of the spectrum, identical words, that have impacted my life phenomenally, that are phenomenal human beings,
That's
right?
right.
So they're just people. They're people on different spectrums with different ideas, but they can interact in a culture like inside this building and treat each other as people. And you can have varying opinions, but at the end of the day, you go, you know what? You respect me, I respect you. We're both working towards a better world for us, for our families, for our future, for our communities, etc. You know what I mean? So we just need to get back to that, man, because that's something I experienced during Corona that was breaking my heart. Is people were trying to say, well, you're just trying to reopen for profit. You don't care about people. I've spent my entire...
Called you murderer for killing grandmas. I mean, that's how serious this got.
100%. And I'm going, no, I'm challenging the information around because I see a ton of holes in the story. And when I put out a video challenging the narrative, no one tried to attack the information that I said. They just attacked my character. And that really shocked me. I said, whoa, wait a second here. I openly said, if at any point during this you can show me that the information that I'm providing is very bad, I will change my opinions. But I've been speaking to doctors and state representatives and all these people and compiling this information using the CDC and all these different guidelines and history, and knowledge from the way that we've looked at viruses throughout human history and all these other things. And I have people saying, just because you're disobeying the order, you're a bad human being.
Right.
We got to get away from that. We got to get back to...
How could you possibly go to... There was literally a headline that said, while we support the protests, we do not endorse businesses opening or gatherings of 10 people. I mean, if you can't see the irony there of how people are blindly following media direction, how did we go from, it's okay, you should support the protests, to now, oh, no businesses now, or now it's you're a murderer if you don't wear a mask? That means we're following this direction, and that's why I challenge people. Every single person has probably posted something pro-mask or anti-mask, and I don't even know right now that I could go on and get clean information about what type of masks are effective, what the real death rate is, mortality rate of this thing. We don't even have the input. So why are we at the point of, if we're both moving targets, arguing over moving targets? It's just going to end up in conflict, more separation, more distance. And it's really, I stay up nights just on the phone with my mom, so upset, because I feel like the middle ground is going to get harder. It's going to disappear. People are getting so polarized. Everything is so polarizing, from guns to deaths to racism. Everything's so polarizing, and people are getting... There's so much baggage. If I were to just meet someone on the other side, we'd both feel like, oh my God, we can't even talk because we have so much baggage. And that just, it disheartens me and makes me so sad, because we should have these a basic set of values and important things to us as being humans, like you say.
Mike Ramsdale said something to me the other day that really clicked to me and hit home hard, and you just alluded to it. He said, we're getting to the point where people are screaming so much instead of speaking. There's a divide that is opening so far between people that you're not even seeing human beings across
That's
from you.
right.
You're not even recognizing faces. That is the enemy. That is the other people. You know what I mean? And he said, like, we need to stop the screaming and we need to get back to speaking.
Yeah.
We need to calm the emotions. We need to come back together, and we need to quickly turn this thing around before we go down a much darker path and we have to all crumble before we rebuild. You know what I mean? Because this doesn't lead in a good direction.
Right.
When emotions cloud judgment and everything is instant anger, and like you said, if you meet someone on the other side, there's already so much of a divide and a baggage, and you almost have to peel all these layers off just to get to organic, good conversation where there's a trusting relationship that, like, am I speaking to another good human being? Are you speaking to another good human being? Because if we're constantly told to demonize the other people, you know what I mean? Right. Now all of a sudden, you know, like I said, it's just created an incredible divide.
And like we said, we got to make these things attractive. Who the hell is going to want to be a politician? What good person would you or I want to go into politics right now? Hell no. And you need people with these mindsets, and it's just not an attractive field anymore. I mean, what kid is going to grow up and want to be a president anymore with this type of scrutiny? And I mean, it's awful. It's like American Idol now. I mean, it's horrible that they're pulling out this stuff and making this such an unattractive. That's why good people never want to do this stuff.
I was watching the White House briefings, and I was watching reporters interrupt the president of the United States of America or speak to him in such a demeaning tone. And I was sitting down thinking to myself, how did we get here? When I was a child, I couldn't even imagine the audacity to be sitting in front of the president of the United States of America, regardless of how you feel about him. If you're listening and you hate Donald Trump, that's fine. But you know what? You have a personal responsibility to accept that he is the president of the United States of America. And whether you're a reporter or a regular civilian, just as much as you would expect him to treat you with respect, the idea of disrespecting and just demeaning and like he'd be trying to speak. So I watched every White House briefing in its entirety during my obsession with this corona thing, because if my life's work on hold, I was going to invest in something. And I was like, if I'm going to lose everything I've ever built, I'm going to go down learning and fighting about what destroyed my business, right? Yep. So I'm witnessing the president of the United States of America trying to give responses and having people interrupt him, cut him off, you know, try to word things in a way that are condescending. And I'm going, how did we get here as people?
Yeah.
You all of a sudden, maybe because you're liberal and he's a Republican, or you're this and he's that, you're not even treating him as a human being, first of all, and you're not respecting the fact that that is the acting president of the United States.
Yeah.
You know, in a weird way, it almost feels to me like it starts back at the home when people were children. How could you? I will stand up if I shake someone's hand. I want respect for any human being that I'm kidding. Even people that are not good human beings, I'm going to treat them with respect and to the point where they disrespect me. And then I'm going to say, hey, you can't. This doesn't work with me. We can't have that interaction, period.
Yeah.
But
sorry, go ahead.
No, but just the idea that I'm witnessing people disrespecting someone like that, we're not working towards progress. We're just demonizing people that are not like us and pointing fingers and causing blame. And it's almost like that's what a lot of these movements are right now. They're invoking incredible emotion in human beings. They're angering them because we are driven by our feelings. Yeah. And they're aiming them at someone. They're giving them a bullseye and saying, you know, like you'll see pictures of a Donald Trump doll with a noose around its neck or all these things. Or how is that acceptable?
Yeah.
How did we get to here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We need to destroy these separation lines between us pretty quickly. Otherwise, the country in 10, 15, 20 years might not be recognizable to you and I, at least not to what we grew up with.
Yeah.
Not the spirit of what makes America great.
Yeah.
And even saying those words, it's like hard for me to say makes America great because that already triggers people.
Oh, yeah. People.
No, I don't mean it that way. I mean the ideals that we embody that make this a healthy, functioning society. I've been around the world. There are some bad places in this world to live. You know what I mean? I've seen the conditions that people live like in other countries. I can tell you what, although America has its problems, this is a phenomenal land of opportunity, and it is a melting pot. And we've had a bad history on certain things, but we've gotten better, and we've learned, and we've progressed. But now it's time to look in the mirror as a culture and say, are we going too far down one road?
That's right. No, I think there's a couple principles that sum up kind of everything that we're talking about that we both agree on pretty heavily. And I think a big one is, look, leadership is independent of title. We tell the people all the time, you're a 360 leader. You got to lead up, down, sideways. Leadership has nothing to do with titles. Anyone can be a leader. Anyone can do these things. And a big thing that I believe in is people always say all the time, isn't it, how soon do you invest in people, or what do they have to prove before you do it, or how much do you spend on people before they've produced or done all this stuff? And I say, look, guys, I have to make a decision to invest in people before they show me anything, because that's on me at the end of the day. I have to invest in my people. And people say, what happens if you invest in someone and they leave? What if you don't and they stay? So you have to invest in your people, and you have to take those steps to go first before you can hold someone accountable or have an expectation. Before someone proves anything, I have to know that in my heart, I did everything I could, and I held out my hand first, and I did all this stuff. And just like you said, sometimes you have to be willing to give respect before you can expect it. It's uncomfortable. And then the other principle is nothing good happens in a comfort zone, right? All the beauty that we like and where all of our worlds overlap, the business, martial arts, all the magic comes from the uncomfortable stuff. So there's two types of people who stay in the comfort zone, or people who seek out discomfort. And that's the route for progress, is unfortunately discomfort, a lot of those difficult things. And like you said, something that we all have the opportunity now is, if we're so frustrated by the big undertaking, you can affect your circle. You can be the change you want. You can be a leader in your circle. You can have conversations with your people. Teach your kids about these principles and the things that we're talking about, and encourage them to get out and interact and listen and understand and treat people with respect and just be what you want to see. And there's a lot. People right now are so weighed down because they're trying to change things. Like you said, the presidential interactions are frustrating, or they're so pissed off at the president. It's like, okay, guys, those are like a 9 or 10. Those are far away from us. But what are you doing that is in your control to make your environment better, to make your circle better, to make the people around you better? And I know at the end of the day, I may be changing, with Smoothie King, 2,500 16-year-olds' lives and their views on leadership and what it means to be in a culture of teamwork and accountability. And I know at the end of the day, I've done that. That gives me more comfort than knowing I did something with the political thing or something about Donald Trump or legislation. The comfort is what I can control in my circle. And I know that's something that you do here and everywhere around you, is what you do around your circle and the things that you try that are in your control without bitching about, 8, 9, 10 down the road. You're doing those things, and you're taking the first steps, and you're being vulnerable, and you're putting yourself out there. It's much like fighting. You got to be willing to, be a meme of getting choked out or knocked out to have success. And you do that. You're willing to maybe make a statement to encourage conversation with scrutiny. And people are going to come at you, and people are going to attack, but you're opening the door for understanding and connection and communication. It's huge.
I like what you just said about before someone shows you anything, you invest in those people.
That's right.
That's actually how I treat people that walk in this building.
Yes.
Because I don't know. Here's the things I do know in life. Human beings have potential.
Yep.
Greatness is within everyone if they're willing to dig for it and achieve it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when someone walks in the door, I already treat them like they have the ability to become the greatest version of themselves, that change the game, that redefine things.
Right.
You know what I mean? So right off the bat, I feel like that's the reason I may have produced so many high-level fighters, is because I treat people from the time that I meet them like they have the potential to be that.
Right. You don't make the better better. You treat everyone with they don't have to prove anything before you pour into them. And that's where the magic happens. You have to invest first. You take that first step. There's no waiting till they prove something or till they're here 2 weeks before I start investing in them. That is on you. If you're a leader, if you want your circle to change, you have to take the first uncomfortable steps, and you have to invest in people, and you have to give without the expectation of returning, and plant a seed whose shade, grows into a tree whose shade you'll never enjoy. That old saying I love. It's so true. It's people who separate themselves, take that first step, and there's nothing that they do is reactive. Everything is intentional. Everything is proactive, and you create what you're trying to get to by that.
Yeah, and that's where, in a weird way, a lot of times some people are like, I'm going to try to phrase this correctly, but they're almost afraid to step into their own power. Like, even if they think that they have potential within themselves, sometimes maybe somewhere in life they were told they weren't good enough, or they were pushed down by society, or they didn't get good enough grades, or their family treated them a certain way. But yet one interaction with another human being that they look up to, where that person makes them feel like they have the potential, that deep down somewhere in their psychology, they're like, you know what, I do think I have that. It almost unlocks that doorway. I walk up and go, this door is open if you want to step through it. If you're willing to step up to the plate and be this type of person, you can absolutely be that little belief that you have within your mind, regardless of what your teacher said, or this person or some person you don't respect said, or the way your family treated you, your past events. These things are all irrelevant. The person that stands before me today has the potential to be great. I see it. can you step into it?
That's
it's
right.
that same idea.
And you carry that into all parts of your life where you just have that expectation, not just people who come in this door, but everyone you meet, you treat with that, they're human and they brought something to the table just because they are here and just because we're alive. And you do that. You're the first person to do that. You initiate conversation, you initiate connection. I mean, it just radiates from you, just like Henner. It was that magic of the same passion that goes in that first trap and roll is just like Corner and Brian Ortega. It's the same stuff because he loves it and he extends it. And people, it's one of the most impactful moments of my life, just like these times here with you. It's those interactions, and everyone has the power to do that. It's like we said, we're not special. We're above average intelligence. We're nothing exceptional in that way. It's just the intentionality of doing this stuff and holding yourself accountable to action and what you want to see. And it's a very hard, uncomfortable step, like we said, but you do it. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have good social skills or you're a people person, but it's just something that you train and you develop, and it's a habit, and you're creating these good habits for yourself that result in things that you enjoy and in better environments for your people.
I love it, man.
Yep.
It's really good information that's been dropped throughout this thing. So I always end these podcasts a couple different ways. The way I'm going to end yours is I'm going to rattle off 3 questions. Just give me the first answer that comes to your mind and just have fun with it.
Good.
So I'm huge into quotes. I'm a person that, man, the amount of quotes that I got stuck in my brain over the years, I constantly quote things. If you had to pick one quote that you believe is super impactful to you, or something that's like something that you've stood behind for a long time, or a quote that just really hit you to the core, favorite quote, go.
Yeah, so those 2 I've already said that have been the most impactful in my business are that people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. That is huge. And my recent one that I've just had so much energy behind is that trust is about vulnerability, not predictability. And that's just, I've tried to take that to every aspect of my life, because listening, vulnerability, definitely 2 of my big weaknesses. So I've been putting a barrier up, and you always wonder why people don't tell you things and what you've done to prevent this or where things went wrong. And it's always back to trust and vulnerability, and they just did not feel comfortable. And you can only blame other people or the wrong people so many times. I have to do more for that. So that's been a big one for me lately.
Yeah, you teach people how to treat you. You know that quote. You know what I mean? You teach people that it's okay to come to you with their problems and their development, and that opens the doorway.
That's right.
So, second one, biggest inspiration in your life, and it could be your father that we spoke about already, but biggest inspiration in your life, why?
Yeah, it's definitely my dad, because the intensity he brings every day, and just what he's done for as long as he's done it, and as busy as he is, to know that he's more doing laps around me intentionally with every aspect of his life, when he's had, by all measures, every successful thing you can have in the world. I mean, went from being a one-off gym opener to partnering with Bain Capital and Morgan Stanley and multi-country, just insane at, all this type of stuff, that huge success standards. But it's what he does every day that I see when no one's watching, that's how I want to be. So definitely him.
That's amazing, man. And biggest goal of your life, if you have something in your mind that, where does this all lead to? What is the biggest goal, dream, aspiration, biggest thing that...
Yeah, so I thought of this a lot. Like, I've been looking for something more, like a little more material and on the fun side, because I just said that piece about how I just want to live my days a certain way. But I think I want to own a sports team one day, too. So talking about big culture and big scale. So I think that's kind of my biggest kind of material goal. Love to own a sports team eventually.
I love that. I love that I just asked that question. I love that response. That's incredible, man. I mean, imagine if you were the owner of the Detroit Lions or something like that, and you got to go and see your team play and be a part of that culture. And plus all the business connections, everything you have. Now you have this incredible event where you can all meet and gather and be a part of it, and you have your VIP box and you interact with these other dream chasers.
That's right.
In a different avenue, in an athletics avenue, but dream chasers.
That's right.
People that live with passion, that are cut from a different cloth. You know what I mean? Because I love being around those people.
Me too.
The more I can interact with those people, every day it fuels my tank just to interact with people like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't want the complainers, the people that are always like that bitching and moaning this. No, I'll work with those people. I'll try to inspire them. But man, I want to be around the dreamers.
Absolutely.
I want to be around the doers, the people that are really trying to leave something on this world that's of an impact.
Yeah.
So man, Chris, I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed this podcast today.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that we just recorded. Just so you know, we did an hour and a half.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was wondering if it was getting to an hour already. So
hour and a half podcast. But for the people that listen to this, I'm telling you right now, the information is out there. These are not secrets. These are not some crazy ancient knowledge that Chris picked up and that's why he is successful. These are things that are right in front of you, and the people are around you. You have to be willing to put the work in. You have to be willing to be vulnerable and grow and desire a certain standard of yourself that is not typical, that is not normally found in life. But if you do those things, you can be successful. So Chris, just anything else you want to say? And please, if people can follow you, do you have social media? If someone wanted to get in touch with you?
Absolutely.
Please.
Like I told you guys, I love this stuff, and it's almost like the pretty girl at the dance, no one asking her, not saying I'm successful, but you'd be surprised how few people really do come to people like my dad or this or that, or how few people seek mentors in general. So I'm not saying I have all the answers, but if there's ever a way I can add value or put you in touch with someone who has value, I love this stuff. I love this. So love people to get in touch with me for whatever thing. How do you get started, all this type of stuff. And so my Instagram's just my name, Christopher Kleba. You can message me on there. I'm on LinkedIn, all that stuff, and read every email. So anything you want to get with me, I love this stuff. I live and breathe this business, passion, leadership development. It's everything to me. It energizes me. So I will talk with anyone from any industry about this stuff. I'm open. Anything I can do to add value, I'm always here.
Well, I'm telling you what, man, I actually, right now we have a 2-mic setup, but I have a 4-mic setup here in the studio, and I've been thinking about moving a round table to the middle of the room and bringing in leadership discussions once a month where,
that'd be fantastic.
Man, I tell you what, if I launch that, I'd love to almost have you consider if it's possible in your schedule to be like a co-host with me. Like you and I bring in the most passionate, the most energetic, the leaders, the people that are innovative, that are changing the game, whether it's political figures or business people or athletes or things like that, and really just discuss these qualities because it's just such a phenomenal thing when you bring that energy into one room and you interact. So, man, if From the Ground Up blows up, you're going to be my guy. So thank you guys so much for listening again. This is the first episode of From the Ground Up, a part of the Michigan Institute of Athletics podcast series here from Brighton, Michigan. Remember that we got our website, instituteofathletics.com. Everybody gets a free week. Come in, check out martial arts. Reach out to Chris, change your life, and you get one shot at this thing, so make it the best. So, again, thank you for being here, Chris, and we'll wrap this up.
Man. Thank you.
Appreciate it.